You know that moment when someone describes you completely wrong to someone else? Maybe they say you're distant, that you're cold, that you don't care, that you're arrogant, and you listen, you process it, and then you do nothing. No correction, no defense, no explanation. The people around you look at you, waiting for a reaction, and you simply move on. And suddenly, you're the problem, the closed off one, the stuck up one, the one who acts like others don't matter. But what if it wasn't any of that? Psychology has a name for what you do. And what researchers found says much more about what's happening inside your mind than anyone on the outside could imagine. This video was made for you, whether it's because you stopped explaining yourself a long time ago, or because you still wonder why this doesn't affect you the way it affects other people. Stay with me, because what comes next could completely change the way you see yourself. First, you're not arrogant, you're not cold, and you're definitely not indifferent. What you have is something that psychology can measure, name, and explain with precision. There is a specific pattern that researchers have identified in people like you people who can be completely misunderstood without feeling the compulsive need to correct it. And it's not superiority, it's not arrogance. It's a psychological configuration that has three distinct layers. The first layer is an internal structure, the way your brain organizes who you are. The second is an emotional architecture, built in your early years, even before you had the words to describe what you were learning. And the third, and this is the one that will resonate the most, is a story. Sometimes long, sometimes painful. Sometimes all three blend into the same person. Let's understand each one of them. The first reason might seem technical, but once you understand it, you'll recognize it immediately. In 1997, psychologist Roy Baumeister began mapping something he called self-concept clarity, the ability to have an internal map of who you are that is consistent, stable, and doesn't depend on external confirmation. Think of it like this. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone tells a twisted version of what happened with your name in the middle of it, the wrong context and the wrong conclusion. You listen to all of it and remain silent, not because of distraction, but because an automatic check occurred in your mind, and the verdict was, this doesn't match who I am. That's exactly what self-concept clarity does. When someone defines you incorrectly, your brain consults its internal map, and if the map is clear, if you know who you are, what you value, and what is true about you, their version doesn't trigger any alarms. The message arrives, but it simply doesn't find resonance with your reality. You have an internal file with your name on it. Complete, updated, detailed. When someone describes you wrong, they are editing their file. Yours remains intact. Baumeister discovered that people with high self-concept clarity have significantly lower levels of social anxiety, precisely because the approval of others ceases to be an existential threat. You don't need to fix their map for yours to remain real. This isn't coldness, it's neurological efficiency. But where does this clarity come from? Where did your nervous system learn to not need other people's maps? This leads us to the second reason, and this one has an even older origin. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and mapped in Behavior by Mary Ainsworth, shows that the way you learn to relate in your early years creates an internal model of where you seek validation. About 55% of adults develop secure attachment. Do you know what that means in practice? When attachment is secure, the nervous system learns something fundamental. I don't need others to reflect me accurately to know that I am real. Validation comes from within, not from the outside. Now think of the opposite. Someone with anxious attachment, and you've probably met someone like this, needs others to understand, approve, and confirm. When they are misunderstood, they feel as if a part of them has been erased. Correcting it becomes urgent because their identity depends on external reflection. You've seen this happen. The person who spends hours ruminating over a comment, who sends a message to explain what they meant, who can't sleep knowing that someone has a wrong version of them. This circuit simply doesn't exist in the same way for those who developed secure attachment. Being misunderstood is uncomfortable, of course. but it isn't an existential threat. Your emotional structure doesn't collapse. It's not that you don't care what others think. It's that you have learned or were raised to have an internal source of certainty that others simply cannot shake with a wrong perception. This doesn't mean you've lost the ability to care. You simply no longer need that external reflection to feel whole. But here's the part that no one talks about. Not all comfort with being misunderstood comes from strength. And the third mechanism has a different origin. This is the one that will resonate with those who have been repeatedly misunderstood throughout their lives. In 1967, Martin Seligman discovered something disturbing. While studying response patterns, he identified what he called learned helplessness, the process where, after repeated and failed attempts to change a situation, the organism stops trying, not by a conscious choice to give up, but because the nervous system has concluded that effort is futile. Now, imagine the inverse. You tried to explain yourself. You tried to defend yourself. You tried to correct the perception again and again and again, and it didn't work. The person didn't understand. The environment invalidated you. The effort produced no result. What did your nervous system do with that? It recalibrated. It didn't give up. It recalibrated. It stopped allocating energy to the correction loop and started directing that same energy inward, toward your own processing, toward your own clarity. This is learned selectivity, and it often starts much earlier than you imagine. Maybe you told the truth, and their version of you prevailed anyway. Maybe you tried to explain how you were feeling, and the explanation turned into an argument. Maybe you grew up in an environment where it didn't matter what you said. Their interpretation was always final. Your brain did the math. Explaining changes nothing. So it stopped. This isn't giving in. It's not weakness. It's your nervous system protecting your energy from a dead-end loop. Think about the weight of that. The difference between this mechanism and the first two is that here, there is an origin, a story, sometimes a wound. And that is exactly what brings us to the most important moment of this video. Because the same behavior, not correcting, not explaining, not defending yourself, can come from two completely different places. The first place is strength. It's internal clarity. It's a validation that doesn't need to come from the outside, because your internal map is stable. The person who lives here chooses silence consciously. The second place is a wound. It's a nervous system that closed the door to explanation not because it doesn't need to, but because it tried too hard and got hurt. The person who lives here also chooses silence, but the choice was made out of pain, not clarity. From the outside, the two look identical. On the inside, the difference is everything. Here's the diagnostic rule. Is the silence a choice or a scar? When you don't explain yourself, are you protecting your energy aware that those who need to understand already do, or are you avoiding the vulnerability that real connection requires? Walls block everyone indiscriminately. Boundaries are selective. One is protection. The other is isolation disguised as strength. And here's the honest part. The two can coexist. You can have genuine clarity of self-concept and, at the same time, have parts where the closure came from a place of pain. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But it's important to know which of the two you're operating from in each situation, because one serves you, and the other might be isolating you from connections you actually want to have. So, which one are you? When you choose not to explain yourself, what happens inside you afterward? Peace. You know who you are, and that's enough. Or a slight void, a pang of desire to be understood that you suppress before it grows, an old pattern still operating. Both are possible. Both are human. And recognizing the difference in yourself is already an act of clarity. But now you have a name for what happens when someone misinterprets you and you don't react. You're not cold, you're not arrogant, you're not indifferent. You are psychologically sovereign. You have permission to stop explaining yourself to those who aren't trying to understand. You owe nothing to those who make no effort to know you. Your internal map is real, it's valid, and it doesn't need external approval to exist. Remember that person from the beginning? The one who stayed silent while being misinterpreted? The one who didn't correct, didn't defend, didn't explain? Now you know what was happening inside them. Not arrogance, not indifference, a nervous system that found its own center of gravity. Have you ever felt that? That strange calm when someone defines you incorrectly and you just let it go? If you have, leave a comment below. A word, a phrase, whatever comes first. I read them all. And if this video gave you a language for something you've always felt but never knew how to name, if it made you feel less strange for the way you are, subscribe to the channel. I make videos like this every week for people exactly like you. You're not alone in this.